8th of January 2025. This was attended by the EDI Technical Workstream Leader, as well as colleagues from SAAFF. There are a total of 12 EDI technical service providers in South Africa. And these are the stats that SARS have shared. If you look at the numbers, I think what's quite telling is obviously just the volume of declarations per day. This is total declarations, inclusive of all modalities, air, ocean, and land, road and rail declarations that are made to SARS. And the invoice received column speaks to the number of declarations that complied with the enhancements to the customs declaration, specifically the invoice and worksheet details, where amongst other data fields, the commercial description of the good must be entered into your technical service provider system. And when they map that data into the message implementation guidelines, the MIG file, it then translates into the EDIFACT language on the EDI side, processed through the gateway, and SARS acknowledges it as a compliant shipment. Within that, though, on the 28th of January, out of a total of 49,000 declarations, you can see that compliance improved significantly. 36,040 of those declarations had the commercial invoice description details verbatim as per the commercial invoice. And this helps SARS, the AI, to build up logic and develop algorithms to identify non-compliance and also reward compliance and identify certain patterns that exist between the entity layer, the exporter and importer, as well as reference pricing.
Oh, okay.
And
okay. All right.
and
Okay.
so,
We will talk. We will talk. You.
Okay, so colleagues, we will get back to ITAX shortly. We have a list of common rejections, the INCOTERMS required, and this is where we would like to take an opportunity to stress to our members, reiterating the legislative provisions of Section 41, amongst others as well, but specifically in this instance, Section 41, invoice particulars. We refer you to paragraph 2.3 of the External Policy SARS Customs CF-30, where they speak to the minimum requirements for an invoice to be deemed acceptable. And we need to then educate our importers in South Africa to engage with their suppliers to ensure as far as possible that those elements are detailed on the invoice so that we comply with Section 41. Then rendering the bill of entry valid as per the provisions of Section 40, subsection A, B, and C. But more than that is also ensuring that all of the other legislative prescriptions are adhered to in terms of primary legislation. Specifically on INCOTERMS, assessing the quality of an INCOTERM. What we mean by that is if you have an ex-work shipment and the supplier is paying the ocean freight, then technically it's not an ex-work shipment, and that's the incorrectly reflected INCOTERM. So we need to strengthen our role as the declarant, as the customs broker, in terms of the quality of the INCOTERM. But this refers to specifically an absent INCOTERM. So it doesn't go into the scrutiny of, is that a correct INCOTERM? It's just that the INCOTERM has not been populated. That's the most common rejection. So please socialize this with your teams. Pay attention to the INCOTERMs, the quantity unit required, versus, so remember, you'll have a statistical unit that pulls through from Schedule 1, Part 1 as per the tariff. You'll also have then a quantity that's on the commercial invoice, which may not always dovetail with the Schedule 1, Part 1 unit. Country of issuer. So we will avail this presentation once we receive the official presentation from SARS, and you're able then to socialize it with your team and ensure the quality of the declaration is upheld. The message implementation guideline file, this would be more for the technical service providers, but if you do have IT and business systems departments in your organization, you now have a complete visibility on the UNECE branch or tree, which is now visible across a screen without having you to print multiple pages, which is, again, ease of accessibility and usability. The penalty imposition for non-compliant trade, you would be receiving a customs response status 6, which indicates to you that there is an error or there's a form of non-compliance. And the eventuality is that penalties will not necessarily deter non-compliance, and you would lodge provisional payments, and then it also places a burden on the IAA process at some point, should you wish to appeal. But the idea then is to reject non-compliant declarations, and that would obviously encourage. For now, the delay date is to be confirmed February 2025. Outright rejection, we're looking at the 1st of April 2025. It gives companies an opportunity to build up their tariff libraries and also ensure that those part numbers match the commercial description that is on the invoice. Some of the questions from trade. So with the no export proceeds would be indicated as 0 days. Advance payment indicated as negative 120 as an example. Charge amounts, however, cannot be negative. In other words, when you're adjusting in terms of 67, 1 or 2, depending on the Incoterm, ensure that the values you input does not result in a negative value. We've asked technical service providers to also build in rejections on the system that doesn't take you to the EDI download part of the transaction when processing the declaration. Some exciting news, and we'd like to acknowledge our workstream leader under the EDI technical group for pioneering this a couple of months ago. But this is really good for trade facilitation, in our opinion, which is a reg doc for the deferment balance check. And you would get then a general message. Under that, it would give you the customs VAT and customs duty balance as at that bill of entry, provided that the FAN number of the importer, as well as the customs code number of the clearing agent is linked. And in addition, you can leverage off the relationship management module on e-filing to disclose the relationship and link the importer to the clearing agent. And of course, the date time period will be provided accordingly. So I think I'll pause there and I'll hand over at this point, colleagues. If there's any questions, you may raise your hand. I'll take questions if you have any. Otherwise, happy to engage via email. I will come to ITAC after the presentation by Kale Logistics, but to set the scene, I'm going to invite Mr. Jean Staniford just to give us some feedback in terms of as one of the participants within the capacity of Aerolink, how the pilot is benefiting. And ideally, in order for this pilot to be successful, it requires customs brokers and freight forwarders to be involved. It is not labor intensive or administratively intense. What I mean by that is the operator is not taking time away from his or